Okay, well, you will see from my demeanor that I'm disappointed. Um, just listen to the fight on Radio 5, which was better than nothing. I said before that I couldn't watch it, so listening to it was better than nothing. And at moments I was really getting into it, and it was quite an experience even being able to listen to it. Um, let's just state the fact: Floyd Mayweather won the fight. Um, that's it. He won the fight, and that man couldn't pull it off tonight. Um, can't imagine what he's feeling right now. Certainly, the Philippines is going to be a country with a lot of disappointed people today. Not just the Philippines, all over the world, there'll be a lot of disappointed people. Um, I can't comment in detail about what happened in the fight because it was entirely from a hearing perspective. I didn't see anything. But the impression I got was that it was pretty fast paced and eventful in the first sort of half, and then the second half, Floyd was Floyd, and he done what he always done. And the better man won tonight. That sounds like the only logical explanation. I mean, as a Pacquiao fan, it's very disappointing, but I am pleased though that I'm never so partisan that I disrespect other fighters because I think the problem is in a sporting event, any sporting event, but particularly boxing, if you come across as very, very partisan to start off with, and then your man loses, you end up feeling rather foolish. Well, I don't have to do that because I always acknowledged it. Mayweather was a great fighter, and tonight he's showing he's one of the greatest ever. Where this places Mayweather in the scheme of things in terms of the great scale, I don't know, but if not in the top 10, then absolutely in the top 15, 20 boxers of all time, unquestionably. Um, talk a little bit about Mayweather first, just get that out of the way. He was, you have to give him credit for having balls of steel. It takes courage for any man to go into a ring knowing there's a hostile crowd. Even though Mayweather's had a lot of experience with it, he really knew that would be the case tonight, and it was a very hostile crowd, let's be honest. Even at the end when Mayweather was, I thought the interesting thing about this fight and the weigh-in and everything was it was pretty civil. There's this perception that if two fighters have a long-standing animosity, they should be like really trash talking each other and stuff. Of course, that's not Pac-Man style, and even this time Mayweather's been quite well behaved. That has to be said. Um, so at the end, it sounded like he was expecting the crowd to turn and give him some credit. And the problem is, I think Mayweather has um, damaged his reputation so much in terms of his arrogance and in terms of some of the things he said that there was no going back. It doesn't matter if he makes sort of polite gestures at the end of the fight. I think that unfortunately it just wasn't enough to turn the crowd. It is harsh, but this is that's boxing. It's a tough sport, and the unpopularity that Mayweather faces is largely brought on by himself. I mean, we're not talking here about a decent guy who has tried his level best to. Mayweather has loved the tag of villain, and he's openly endorsed that. So I think if his logic was, well, I'll play the villain role for all of this time, and then suddenly the fans will like me, he was misguided. But we can't take away from what Floyd Mayweather has done. I mean, it doesn't sound like it was that close. It sounds like, based on anyway what I heard from the judges and the commentary, it's difficult to say that it was a very close fight because it wasn't. Um, some of my Filipino friends, one of them, she said that Floyd was hugging and running, which is something that Floyd Mayweather is often accused of. But I think us Pacquiao fans need to be adult enough to just admit that our man lost tonight and not make excuses because that's what happened. That's boxing. One man has to win, one man has to lose. And it's not that surprising. I mean, Mayweather was tipped to win, so it wasn't surprising. Um, this is what happened. I mean, I look forward to seeing the fight itself and seeing what actually transpired. But I think the difficulty is because Manny Pacquiao is such an inspirational figure. It's the royal fan base isn't. I don't think it's necessarily a national partisan thing because there's a lot of other Filipino fighters. It's because Manny Pacquiao is such an inspiring figure. Now, had he done it this tonight, had he won, no doubt he would have been way, way, way. His reputation would have soared. But I still believe he's going to go down as an all-time great. I mean, he's already had profound achievements. So the fact he didn't win tonight, does it damage his legacy? Not necessarily. I think his legacy stays as it is. Um, I don't think it diminishes his legacy necessarily, but let's be honest, it doesn't advance it either. So Pacquiao's historic legacy will be a great, great fighter, but maybe not the exceptional fighter that many people wanted. He just couldn't do it, and that's the way. That's what happened. Um, as for Floyd Mayweather, well, it's difficult to take whatever way you want to criticize how he done it, and that's just the way it is. Now, in terms of the fight itself, Don Riddell of CNN said, "No way can we now call this the fight of the century." It blatantly wasn't. I have to admit, there was points that I was slightly wary of the tag as well, although it was impossible to. If this has to be called the most hyped up fight ever, that's probably true. And it is the most expensive fight ever, that's a historical fact. It is. It won't be seen as the greatest fight ever, no way. That's just reality. It won't be. In terms of what is the greatest fight ever, that probably, it's either the Thriller in Manila or the 38 meeting between Lewis and Schmeling. Um, Hagler Leonard, I haven't actually seen that fight very much, so in terms of my own opinion, I'm not sure. This fight is historic. It is the most expensive fight ever, and it is so from that point of view, it is a historic fight, and I don't think it was necessarily a bad fight. I mean, from what I heard, the early rounds were exciting and they were fast paced. So I don't think we could dismiss it as a bad fight. But was it a great fight? Probably not. Now, in terms of what happens next, Mayweather now has a record of 48-0. If he fights once again and wins, he says he has his last fight in September. It's highly unlikely he'll be beaten by anyone. If he can't beat, I mean, if he beats Manny Pacquiao, he's going to beat anyone. Manny Pacquiao was the second greatest fighter in the world in the welterweight division. So, you know, Mayweather's pretty much guaranteed to win his next fight. And I feel sorry for the whatever fighter has to go up next because he's just not going to get the. He's going to be dismissed as an underdog, whoever he is, whether it be Amir Khan or um, all the names are in the offing at the moment. I don't know if Keith Thurman's spoken about a fight, and there's a few other figures, but whoever it is, they're going to have to be a genius to beat Floyd Mayweather. In terms of a rematch, it would be nice, it would be wonderful, but my brain tells me it is not going to happen because Mayweather is a very clever businessman, and what would he gain from having a rematch? He won this, so what would he gain? What if he had a rematch and Pacquiao won? I think Mayweather would never forgive himself. He would say, "Why the hell did I do that?" Mayweather's got nothing to gain by having a rematch. Pacquiao, I don't know if the Pacquiao camp is going to push for that or not. Pacquiao did say at the end of the fight he thought he'd won. Now, I don't know if he was saying that to please the crowd or if he was in denial. I don't know, but he thought he'd won. Um, Max Kellerman was quite blunt. You really thought you'd won? I don't think a rematch is going to happen. I'd be very surprised. And even if it did go ahead, it would be very difficult to hype it up because everyone would just say, "Oh, Mayweather will win again." Or so even if it went ahead and Pacquiao won, that would definitely make it a big thing. But the question about fights is what is more important, the hype or the fight itself? Now, I wouldn't dismiss hype. I think it's got historical significance for boxing, but ultimately, probably the fight itself is a lot more important. That sounds like common sense. So, is there an anticlimax to this? think there is a bit. I think had it been a lot closer, people would say, well, it's disappointing, but at least the fight was great. As it turns out, Mayweather won quite decisively, and the fight wasn't an outstanding fight. And I hate to say that, but I'm an honest person and I'm a realist, and that sounds like what's happened. Um, will Pacquiao retire now? I don't know. 36, Mayweather's 37, 38. They're both actually, when you think of some of the people around in boxing, like Bernard Hopkins is 49. Remember, Mayweather's retired before then, he's come back. So Mayweather is phenomenally ambitious, which every prize fighter is, but I'm not sure if he'll be content just equaling Marciano's record. I think he might want to go beyond that. One thing I would say though is when we're thinking about this undefeated thing, this isn't taking anything away from Mayweather. It's a great legacy to have. But when you look at the history of prize fighting, 48 fights isn't exceptional. It's about average. It isn't like an exceptional number of fights. Remember, Pacquiao has actually won more fights than Floyd Mayweather. It's just that Mayweather's undefeated. Pacquiao has had more fights. And there's many great fighters who lost fights. Sugar Ray Robinson lost fights. Muhammad Ali lost fights. So the undefeated thing it's definitely something special, and only a handful of men, Floyd Mayweather, Rocky Marciano, Joe Calzaghe, few others can say that, but I don't think it's everything, and I don't think it necessarily determines greatness. Although it is who you fight, and Mayweather has fought some great fighters, and he's beaten them. Manny Pacquiao now, um, Manuel Cotto, sorry, Miguel Cotto, Juan Manuel Marquez, Shane Mosley, Ricky Hatton, and all of these guys are probably future Hall of Famers. Hype Man certainly is. So it's very difficult to take anything away from Floyd Mayweather. He calls himself the greatest ever. Is he better than Ali? I don't think we can really tell something like that until history is written. My instinct is probably not. I will say one thing. It would be unfair to judge a fighter solely on popularity. So we have to be fair about this, and just because he's not popular shouldn't mean that should take away intelligent academic perspective of his legacy. I mean, Mike Tyson was certainly controversial, and he's widely seen as great. Perhaps there is a slight naivety to those of us who get inspired by someone like Manny Pacquiao that on the night the good guy should win. I mean, this was a good guy versus a villain, and the villain won. So, but like I said, I think probably those sort of tags got a little bit carried away. I mean, Pacquiao's not perfect. He's, done things in the past that wasn't as squeaky clean as his image might suggest. I don't think Mayweather's a monster. He's arrogant and he is what he is. But that's it. There isn't really much more I can say. I doubt a rematch is going to happen. In terms of who Mayweather's next opponent is, it's my understanding that Amir Khan has this issue about Ramadan being over June. But if the fight's in September, I don't think that would affect it. Amir Khan's a great fighter, and I don't think it would be. I mean, he's not Manny Pacquiao, but I do think that if he faces Mayweather, it would be a fight worth watching. It would be a big fight. Certainly wouldn't be hyped up as much as this. And Mayweather's last fight won't be a very hyped up affair. But if it is his last fight, because it's always hard to know with Floyd Mayweather. Although I, I have to give Mayweather credit for other areas as well. He's a very skilled businessman. He is also possibly the greatest defensive boxer ever. In that regard, he might be seen as the greatest. Um, I have to give him credit for that. I mean, for a boxer that is intelligent, there's no honor than in getting yourself beaten up for the sake of it to prove something. Mayweather has sort of made staying healthy a cool thing for boxers, and that's important. Um, Mayweather and Pacquiao and his camp is going to really have to review what to do here. It's going to be devastating for him. He wouldn't be human if he wasn't devastated. But I mean, you could look at it this way: both guys are making money that most people will never see. And even though Pacquiao is hugely gregarious and gives a lot of it back, Well, the thing is, it isn't about money for him, but he's got a comfortable life, and he's got other fields. He's a politician. He could rise far in that field. He could end up becoming president of the Philippines. So, Manny Pacquiao is still a hugely inspiring figure. I don't think this necessarily, I think it doesn't advance his legacy, but I don't think it necessarily detracts from his legacy because no one was saying he will definitely win. I think sometimes boxing fans get very partisan, and there's a lot of childishness, and you see a lot of disrespect on both sides. I've seen it on both sides. All these sort of memes and all this stupid shit. I can't get into that, although some of them are quite witty. But that's what happened. So my final thoughts, I really don't know what the Pacquiao camp is going to do. He's had more fights than Mayweather, and he's slightly younger, so he might fight a bit longer. But I think he knows that it'll never get bigger than this. And Mayweather, I think he'll have one more fight with someone like I mentioned Amir Khan, a rematch with Alvarez. I don't know about that. I'm just putting out some names. Trying to think of people in the division who could fight Mayweather next. Um, I don't know. But Mayweather would have nothing to gain from facing Pacquiao again, so I very much doubt that will happen. But this is boxing. One man has to win, one man has to lose, and now history has recorded that Floyd Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao. So for us boxing fans, that is history. That's what's happened. We have to just work with that. If you're a Mayweather fan, congratulations, your man done well. He's a great, great, exceptional athlete. And to Pacquiao fans, I share your sentiments because I'm a huge Pacquiao fan. But we have to give Floyd credit. He's done what any prize fighter has to do, and he won the fight. So that's it. Do let me know your thoughts.